Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at investment markets. Coronavirus still dominating proceedings, and it's really just a question now in the US of whether they have got it under control or not. As the economy tries to reopen over there and starts gradually get around to sort of reopening, there's obviously been a major spike in cases. Now that's led to some calls for states to go back to sort of partial lockdown. Obviously, President Trump and the administration is vehemently against that because really needs the economy to be up and running if they've got any chance of getting re-elected in the November election. Biggest issue in the States is just this social distancing and people just believing that it really doesn't work, it doesn't matter, they don't have to wear masks, and that's really just leading to a breeding ground for spreading the virus. Because the president appears to be the sort of southern states that are already suffering now. Certainly most of the northern states, sort of New York, etc., seem to have come through the worst. And that's having a bit of a knock-on effect because as Europe starts to reopen its borders, they are still banning US travellers. So certainly earnings season really could be pretty interesting. Most people expect it to be pretty dire, but it's just a question of really how the sort of second half of the year sort of pans out for the US economy. But US stocks sort of holding in reasonably well. Dow Jones currently trading around sort of 25,700. That's sort of okayish. Most people expect a pretty poor sort of second quarter earnings. But as always, it's going to be very interesting to see the guidance. Big test for the US as well this week with the release of the latest unemployment data. Certainly there was quite a big spike in May, sort of plus 2.5 million jobs. It's just going to be interesting to see if that is continued. But also, as well as we head into this weekend, it's a big July the 4th holidays. A lot of people like to get together, a lot of mass gatherings, and it's going to be really interesting to see the cases going forward in the next sort of couple of weeks. As mentioned, Europe's starting to reopen its borders, and certainly the European economies don't appear to be in too bad a shape, really, considering what's happened. With that reopening of the borders, certainly some of the southern countries, sort of Italy, Greece, etc., Spain, will start to see a little bit of increase in sort of tourism activity as well. A little bit closer to home, and Australia again is starting to reopen its border. Queensland's looking at doing it sort of second week of July, but really the hot spot in Australia is Victoria at present. And they've had quite a big spike in cases. That's obviously had quite a major impact on a potential sort of trans-Tasman bubble between New Zealand and Australia, with a spike in cases in Victoria. That has just sort of pushed that sort of bubble now back into at least November, December, if not 2021. And here in New Zealand, the government's under quite a bit of pressure for its handling of the sort of borders and the quarantine areas with returning New Zealanders. Because after having 3 weeks of no cases, cases then started to come through with people returning back to New Zealand. That was probably expected because they were coming from countries that did have COVID. But what has been really disappointing is the sort of lack of testing and administration of these quarantine areas. Also, as well, activity starting to pick up now in the sort of political campaigning as we head into the September election. Now, certainly a couple of weeks ago, that was pretty much a foregone conclusion. Labor was going to win by quite a comfortable majority and may not even need any other parties to help govern. But certainly in the last week, Labour have fallen quite dramatically in the polls, and it's now going to be very interesting to see how this sort of plays through in the next sort of 2.5 months. But overall, New Zealand economy is not too bad. It's sort of holding up reasonably well. Interestingly, housing prices are holding up as well. But that's maybe not surprising given sort of record interest rate lows. Now, obviously, with that low interest rate environment, if you're interested in discussing what's available in terms of income options, call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.